And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. After the Second World War, the Celanese Corporation of America became interested in Canada as a supplier of raw material. Built in 1951, Skeena Cellulose quickly became Prince Rupert's largest employer. We open our archives to bring you this story from 1995.
Today, cars move freely through the gates of Skeena Cellulose as members of PPWC Local 4 started their first full day back at work. It's been a strike that's seen both sides firmly entrenched over issues like contracting out and flexibility. But yesterday, both sides agreed to the compromise drawn up by mediator Vince Reddy. The union vote in favor of accepting it was just over 70%. It's been 3.5 months since union members walked off the job. With the $8 million payroll lost, the community reeled under the strain.
In any labor dispute, there's going to be some pain and suffering that's endeavored by all. There are some monies that are going to be going forward to the members as a result of collective bargaining through the 95 set of negotiations. Hopefully that'll help get them assisted going back in the right positive direction. And
obviously, we're not going to specifically talk about how much money we lost, but no, when you're in the business of selling a product in a booming market situation such as existed over the last few months up until September at least, you'll never get it back. That opportunity is gone. It's gone forever.
In late July, Skeena Cellulose was producing 1,500 tons of pulp a day. The market price at that time was $1,000 a ton. That's $1.5 million a day. Bugner says it will take the A mill until Thursday to produce high-quality pulp. The B mill will be about 3 days behind, so the entire mill won't be fully operational until this weekend. Can we conclude if anyone came out on top? And is there ever a winner in a strike?
Definitely not any winners. I don't know how anybody could pretend to win in a strike that goes on for nearly 16 weeks. What we've got to do now is get the effort back together here again, and as much as it might sound like a cliche, we've got to take on the real competition, which is other people that are trying to take away our business, not our employees.
in a strike, in any labor dispute, once the battle lines are drawn, there are no winners. Both parties are losers from the onset, and hopefully we can set aside everything that has occurred through this bargain and move forward.
The union has a 6-year contract, but it's open for discussions in 1997. For now, it's back to work and back to business at Skeena Cell.
When the clock ran down yet again on Skeena Cellulose this month, only to be restarted by the BC courts, the province announced it was negotiating a sale to Mercer International of Switzerland. And one of the key components of the deal was a $20 million contribution from a group of Northwest communities because so much of their economic health was at stake.
We're basically blue-collar towns, and our prosperity is, like I mentioned, no small part due to the workers, and we're committed to this project. We've got a strong balance sheet, and we're not saying that we're throwing this money out the window, but we expect repayment on it. But we've got to be accounted. We've got 4 branches in the Northwest, and 2 of them, Terrace and Prince Rupert, are solely dependent on the mill operations.
The community's mayors got together in Smithers in October to discuss what they could do to keep the ball rolling past the court's cutoff date of November 5th, and that's when they formed a limited partnership.
The other communities had expressed very much the same concern as we had. Terrace had expressed the same concern that if it went into bankruptcy, it would have a huge impact. So, and they were very supportive of the idea that Skeena go ahead as a going concern as it had in the past.
Prince Rupert was taking on the biggest portion of the community investment, $12 million. Terrace is on the hook for $5 million. Port Edward and the Northern Savings Credit Union, $1 million each, and New Hazelton, $250,000. 2 other communities which had been involved in the discussions, Hazelton and Smithers, decided to opt out. But the agreement depends on a lot of things. In Prince Rupert, for example, its involvement is contingent upon the city being repaid the $11.5 million in back taxes owed by SCI.
We have no interest in investing in a pulp mill unless it's to protect our community's economic viability. The second thing is that the tax situation has to be settled to our satisfaction. We want to see the contractors paid out. We want to see a viable business plan that makes good investment sense.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. According to the British Columbia's government website, the total debt owed by Skeena Cellulose to taxpayers of British Columbia surpassed $400 million, including more than $270 million in financial assistance received from the government in the form of loan guarantees, and contribution. Let us return to the archives as we hear from the District of Port Edward.
Port Edward is also counting on payment of back taxes, $1.2 million in its case.
We have no more reserves, and I guess even further reaching is if the company is not viable and doesn't operate, where are we going to get the tax money from, the tax base?
In Terrace, there's the matter of logging and road building contractors and suppliers who are owed several $1 million.
The Mercer deal, if it proceeds, indicates that they will pay those contractors. They've said that to me personally, and they've said that to everyone who asked them. And again, Roger Harris has been very instrumental in getting that done as well, so he's done a good job there.
And the credit union's involvement hinges on Mercer producing a good business plan for SCI.
Our major interest would not be in terms of making a significant profit on any upside, but ensuring that the downside of a possible investment would be to a certain degree protected. So we're looking at a fairly quick resumption of business. We are looking at, within certainly the second or third year, a positive cash flow being generated by the operations, so that somewhere down the road, whether it's 5 years or 6 years or however long, we'll be able to come up with an exit strategy for our investment.
One thing the communities all agreed on is that the money would not simply come from tax dollars, although where exactly it will come from is a bit cloudy, and certainly the contractors expect to be asked to pony up.
Well, I think the hope is that contractors and people that operate for SCI, or what formerly was SCI, will contribute the funds on a monthly basis to carry the debt. The response to that is lukewarm. I won't say cold or hot, but lukewarm. And the majority of people want to see what the business plan is first and see if it looks like a viable business plan. Then that would be more encouragement from an investment standpoint.
The workers at the company's Northwest operations are also being asked to contribute through their unions.
The membership of this local union voted unanimously to support the mayor's proposal, and they have agreed to put 2.5% of their wages into trust fund to make up any shortfall in interest if the population of Terrace approves the $5 million loan.
Malhotra says non-unionized workers in Terrace have also agreed to the same terms. SCI's long-suffering contractors are a bit leery about it all because they've been let down before and have lost millions of dollars. In fact, some even wonder if an SCI bankruptcy would be such a bad thing.
Well, it could go either way. I think one of the big fears is bankruptcy might lead to the dismantling of the manufacturing facilities around here. And if that were to happen, it would be quite a long time before the contractors could see any kind of a steady business. But there is a lot of contractors that feel that maybe bankruptcy is the best option.
But those contractors are in the minority because most of the people we spoke with are extremely fearful of an SCI bankruptcy.
That there will be have to be cutbacks in city services, but also just the situation for businesses in the community and the residents of the community is going to be quite difficult.
In the area, Rupert, Port Edward and everything, there's a tremendous amount, 5,000 people, maybe 6,000. The spin-off is fantastic. Look at the local stores here in Prince Rupert. My thoughts are the same thing as Don Scott's is. We're worried. We don't know what to do. And if this mill goes down, we're in deep, deep trouble. We'll survive, but it's not like it was in the old days.
If the jobs go, this town is going to suffer a lot because the property values will drop, and most of the communities are fighting to retain the industry they have, plus they're trying to get more industry in their town to have better tax base, and it will help people if we are able to keep this mill running.
The ripple effect is so wide-ranging, I'd rather not think about it, because we need that. We need those people here to support us.
The communities certainly don't see their financial involvement as open-ended, and they want to make sure there's a way for them to exit without kissing off their investment, the way the provincial government basically has done. And while there are all sorts of potential landmines that could blow this deal apart, the communities cling to guarded optimism.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Skeena Cellulose directly employed 793 people in Prince Rupert, a city of 16,000. But as many as 12 times that number of jobs in the region depend on whole or in part of the company. Let us return to the archives to discover what happens when a major employer closes its doors.
Out of the 300 or so Skeena Cellulose employees terminated last week, about 160 of them were from the Prince Rupert pulp mill. When a deal is finally done to sell the company and the dust is settled, the number of casualties could be even higher. Removing that many jobs from the city's economy could have some pretty big effects.
With the downsizing and the loss of disposable income, we could expect that 250 job loss to account for at least another 250 to 500 jobs within the community, for a total aggregate effect of somewhere between 500 and 750 jobs.
That means putting people back to work as soon as possible is a priority. Although it hasn't had much to do with the Skeena Cellulose situation, it appears that responsibility has been placed squarely on the shoulders of the federal government.
At this point, all we can offer is our regular type programming, which is retraining for the individuals. We cannot get involved in actual group training.
The North Coast Career Resource Centre is the organization that HRDC has contracted to help workers displaced by the Skeena Cell situation. This past fall, it began that task by sending out letters to all pulp mill employees to advise them of the centre's services and to invite them to an information session.
We've had about a 25% response, which from a marketing point of view is not bad. And we've provided intensive sort of looks at labor market information, rudimentary computer training so that people are able to go and do their own labor market information. And also we've conducted pretty intensive assessments, both academically and personality-wise, so that we can help people look at different occupations, look at different routes to employment.
Assuming SCI doesn't end up bankrupt, it's expected that about 260 people will lose their jobs at the pulp mill. Preste says the resource center is prepared to handle the larger volumes of traffic.
We've developed all of these group sessions, which allows us to deal with pretty huge numbers quite quickly and efficiently, but everybody does meet individually with a counselor as well to develop a return to work action plan, which may or may not include retraining. Currently we have people who have upgraded in their occupational first aid, who've upgrading welding, people who have gone in entirely different directions if they aren't already skilled.
If it's found that the workers do need retraining, it doesn't mean that they will have to go it alone financially, as there is funding available to help them put food on the table while going through the process.
There's sort of three different scenarios. One is that people are perhaps helped with their tuition and books and continue to get their EI payments or benefits. When their EI benefits are starting to run out, then they can be switched over to a training allowance, which is negotiated according to their needs. And the third case would be where people are seeking retraining outside of the community, but they have a family here and where they have to maintain mortgage payments, etc., then there isn't a possibility of receiving a training allowance or a living away allowance.
Another great resource in Prince Rupert is the Hecate Strait Employment Development Society. Although not involved in retraining, Hecate Strait offers a wide range of labor market information from all over the province.
We try and gather information about the employment scene from the Alberta border to Haida Gwaii, up into the Peace River, Dawson Creek, Fort St. John area, so that we can identify those opportunities for people. If they come in, sit down with us and discuss what they're looking for.
Hecate also offers a self-employment benefits program, which helps people get on the path to starting up their own business. Like retraining, the SEB program does offer financial assistance.
There's $315 a week at the present time. So there are some opportunities there for people that want to work home-based businesses or are looking at areas that haven't been addressed in communities and they want to establish themselves.
Skeena Cellulose's Pulp Workers Union, which represents the largest number of employees, is adamant about the need for retraining. Local 4 President Frank DiBartolo says the union's younger members will probably need it the most because they will more than likely be the ones cut loose first. However, DiBartolo says that's not the way it has to be.
Basically what's going to happen here is all the people that are going to be laid off are going to be the young people. So we need a form of retraining for these young people so that they can get on with their lives. Now, there also could be other help here. If we could get a severance package or a retirement package for our senior people, in our view, that would probably be the best, because then what it would mean is the older people will leave the workforce and we would have work for the young people.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Formed in 1976, Repap bought up pulp, paper, and lumber mills that other companies shut down in British Columbia, Manitoba, Wisconsin, and New Brunswick, and cobbled them together to a conglomerate that at one point was worth more than $4 billion. In this final segment of Open Connection, let's return to the archives to hear what NWBC Lumber has in mind for the old mill.
Since last year, NWBC Timber and Pulp has been trying to get its hands on Skeena Cellulose Incorporated, and now it appears it's almost succeeded. Last week, a Supreme Court justice approved the deal which had been reached with the province, but not without some obstacles. Terrace Mayor Jack Tolstra stood up and told the judge that if he was uncomfortable with the deal, that bankruptcy was still an option.
Well, we've had our contractors and retailers burned rather severely in 1997, the first time round, and then we had them burned again just recently this time around, and we want to make sure that that does not happen again.
The alternative to our deal is bankruptcy. And bankruptcy would cause untold damage, not only to the creditors, but it would result in a fire sale of the business, a liquidation of the company under receivership that's court-appointed. And the whole idea of bankruptcy and a liquidation is to get the most value for the individual parts of a company. That's what it's all about. And I can't understand for the life of me how bankruptcy could be a viable option to anybody in the Northwest.
Reaction from 2 other Northwest mayors on the court decision was mixed. In Prince Rupert, Don Scott was very pleased with the outcome.
I certainly want to see the pulp mill up and running in the next few months. I hope that and expect that to happen. Certainly it is dependent on pulp markets. We want to see those markets improve. It looks like the North American economy is supposed to be improving. So hopefully we've got an upturn and we have the Northwest back operating on all 8 cylinders.
I'm thankful for any money that the contractors can get, the unsecured creditors. I mean, like, I guess 13 cents on the dollar is better than nothing. I just hope that they are going to deal with communities like they said they would, but I have the distinct feeling that it won't be this community.
Even though NWBC has maintained that it wants to keep SCI as an integrated operation, there continues to be doubt surrounding the future of the Carnaby sawmill.
The Carnaby mill is a good operation. It's a pulp log operation, and lumber markets are improving. And if the economics make sense, we have every intention of starting up Carnaby and putting those people back to work. That's our hope and that's our expectation.
If NWBC is successful in closing the deal for SCI, Venier hopes to get right to work on getting the company up and running. First on the agenda is the Capital Improvement Program.
And we need to be a low-cost, high-quality producer of pulp and lumber. So in order to do that, first we need to talk with the workforce and develop a new understanding with them. Once that's behind us, then we go into the capital work. We need the tie-in work and debottlenecking work to get this business fully productive. And then we've got to fiber up the sawmill. So that basically is the three-step plan going forward that'll take us into the summer.
However, before any work begins, the deal has to be approved by the unsecured creditors. And of course, the question is, will they accept the 10 to 13 cents on the dollar that they're being offered?
Well, that would be the other alternative had it gone into bankruptcy. That would have been the alternative. So if you look at it from that perspective, yeah, 13 cents on the dollar is better than nothing. And they've already gone, 5 months just about since. They haven't had any money. So, it all depends how you want to look at it from a business perspective. It is, let's take the money and get on with it and get to work and make this a viable operation. Or let's, I've heard some comment that said, well, if I'm not going to work, I don't want anybody to work and I'm going to vote against it. But that's an individual basis, and there are, like I stated, a lot of individuals out there this time that are owed money.
I think it's kind of the second time in how many years? 5 years, and I do sympathize with them. However, I think you reach a point where you've got to look at that 13 cents on the dollar or 10 cents on the dollar and say this is the best we're going to do at this point. Bankruptcy means that, chances are they'll get nothing, and possibly we won't see a company going forward, so there'll be no opportunity in the future to earn an income.
I have always said that I felt that if it got to an unsecured creditor vote, that people should ask the tough questions. They should be asking NWBC what their business plan is in relation to what they said in the communities in December and where they're going to, down the road. I think those are critical questions, and I think if you got to make sure that it's, the decision they're going to make, or we as communities are going to make, will have a huge impact in us. And nobody wants to see this company go into bankruptcy. I don't think that's ever been the goal of anyone, but we do want to make sure that if we have a deal that moves forward, it is the right deal for our community, and it's the right deal that has the best chance of long-term success.
NWBC is putting $2 million on the table, of our own money on the table, in order to try to address unsecured creditors. We're the only ones that offered that, and we did, because we know that it's an issue. We believe quite strongly that if we build a profitable, competitive business going forward, that there will be opportunities going forward for unsecured creditors that are affected by this CCAA process.
NWBC has said it needs to make an initial investment of about $150 million to get Skeena to where it should be in order to make it profitable. The company has stated that it has raised about $75 million so far. The question is whether it can raise the rest.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind to his heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.